They had it all: wealth, power, and a love story that began with nothing and conquered the world. But sometimes, the higher you climb, the colder it feels at the top. For Margaret Whitmore, the greatest loss wasn't the money they never had. It was the man she no longer knew. This is the story of when gold turned to glass. Henry and Margaret started with grit, hunger, and each other. In a dusty garage, they built a leather shop that grew into a chain, then into an empire of hotels, restaurants, and investments spanning the globe. They became the couple everyone envied, living in a mansion, flying on private jets, draped in designer wardrobes. Margaret and Henry had been married 42 years. They began with fire, nights of endless talk, stolen kitchen kisses, long drives with no destination but each other. Henry's eyes once lit up the moment she walked in, but over time, the fire cooled to embers. Behind the marble walls, love thinned to polite exchanges and public smiles. Henry chased billion-dollar deals. Margaret drifted through charity luncheons, boutiques, and luxury trips that sparkled but left her empty. They also built a family, 2 grown children who had never known the struggles their parents once faced. But the one thing that had once been effortless, the warmth between them, was quietly fading. Money had given her everything, except his attention, his touch, his heart. Nights felt lonelier than when they were broke. Then, one rainy afternoon, while rushing into a luxury mall, she collided with a man who caught her before she could fall. Daniel, early 30s, a photographer with warm eyes and an easy smile, looked at her as though she were the only person in the room. That fleeting spark followed her home, lingering far longer than she expected. Weeks later, she bumped into him again at a quiet cafe. Coffees became walks, walks became dinners, and their conversations felt like a rediscovery of herself. Daniel never asked about her wealth. To him, she was simply Margaret. She began dressing differently, choosing brighter colors and wearing perfume she hadn't touched in years. Daniel noticed. He noticed everything. With him, she felt like more than just someone's aging wife. She was vibrant, wanted, seen. Then came the night. Rain traced the windows of a small boutique hotel as Daniel kissed her, unplanned, unpolished, real. And in that moment, the empire she'd built with Henry felt less like a triumph and more like a gilded cage. From then on, she lived 2 lives, Henry's elegant wife in the light, Daniel's in the shadows. She knew it was borrowed time, but deep in her soul, the truth was set. Once the glass breaks, you can never pretend the world inside is enough. They say true love isn't measured by the easy days, but by the storms endured, the sacrifices made, the patience tested, and the quiet, relentless choice to forgive. Margaret and Henry lived in a modern world, yet their love carried them through more than 4 decades of triumph and trial. 42 years. That's how long they had been writing their story. Not just a marriage, not just a legacy, but a love carved from dust, sweat, and dreams. From scraps of leather in a small garage to towers rising across the skyline, they built everything, always, hand in hand. They laughed, they fought, they conquered. And yet, somewhere along the climb, they lost the most precious thing of all, each other. They had wealth, they had success. They had everything money could buy except the warmth of what they once shared, when just a touch, a glance, a presence was enough. Years slipped by after Margaret left, retreating to their old cottage, the cradle of their love. There she wept in silence, drowning in regret. She had betrayed Henry, but her heart still beat for him. She longed for forgiveness. Henry, too, was hollow without her. He sought comfort in another, a younger woman. But it was not love. It was vanity, greed, and emptiness. Surrounded by riches, Henry discovered a poverty far deeper, life without Margaret. In the quiet of his loneliness, he saw his greatest failing. Not that he stopped loving her, but that he stopped showing it. One weekend, fate brought them back together. Henry arrived at the cottage wearing the old sweater from their leaner, love-filled days. Margaret was dusting their wedding photograph when he stepped inside. Tears welled in her eyes. "I broke us," she whispered. "But maybe we never stopped loving. We just forgot how to show it." Henry's voice trembled with truth, yet steady with devotion. "For 42 years we stumbled, even parted,
But somehow I know we were always meant to find our way back. There is no one like you. No one ever will be. And so they began again. Not to rebuild riches, but to rebuild them. Morning coffees, evening walks, birthdays and anniversaries celebrated. Silence giving way to laughter. Distance melting into touch. And slowly, love, once thought lost, bloomed again. Months later, they returned to another gala. The cameras flashed. But Margaret's radiant smile wasn't for the crowd. It was for Henry. Because when glass had shattered, they chose forgiveness. And that is the true secret of love. Not that two hearts never falter, but that when they break, they choose again and again to rise together.